Out of every scene from the cyberpunk classic Ghost in the Shell, this one has always left me feeling unnerved. And for those of you that have watched the film, that's odd, right? I mean, that movie has some downright horrifying scenes. And yet to me, this quiet shot of a lone figure, contrasted against the stark white city behind her, has always got to me in a way that's hard to describe. So anyway, Cyberpunk Edgerunners was really good. I don't know how Netflix keeps getting away with it, honestly. They made Castlevania relevant again. They tricked thousands of people into thinking that League of Legends was good. And now they have the audacity to make one of the best anime of the year a Cyberpunk 2077 anime. You know, the game that looked like this at launch.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
Given that it was our Lord and Savior Studio Trigger behind the wheel, it should be no surprise that there are so many scenes that drip with style and aesthetic flair. And when these visuals are being paired up with a very fitting soundtrack full of songs from the game, you get a very immersive experience. And if that's not enough to sell you on the show, then the fan art of Johnny Silvercheeks and her gremlin friend over here probably already have. My only real nitpicks with the show as a whole is that the CG does not look great, the pacing can be really fast, and the lingo used can be kinda,
So you guys are cyberpunks, aren't you?
He said it! He said it!
However, while it's not perfect, I respect the hell out of Edgerunners because it knows what it wants to be, it aims high, and it goes out with a bang. So if you just want to know if I like the show or not, then yes, show good, watch show. For those of you that have had the pleasure of experiencing the end of Edgerunners, I want to take some time to dive deeper into something that I found really interesting about it, and that's the main antagonist of the series. So before some video essayist that is way better than me steals my thunder, let's talk about why David is an idiot, Better Call Saul is not the main antagonist, and how Night City kinda sucks. From the very start, Edgerunners waste little time in showing us both the beauty and the sheer horror of Night City. On one hand, pretty fishy. Look at pretty fishy. Pretty fishy make me happy. On the other hand, Night City is the best and worst parts of modern society exaggerated to 11. If you have money and power, then it is a virtual playground. But if you don't, then perish. It is a city with clear winners and losers, and most importantly, anyone has the possibility of being a winner. Right? Well, in theory, anyone can be a winner. But the
game was rigged from the start.
Obviously, not everyone is born with the same amount of money or power. And those are slightly important things in this setting. Sometimes you luck out and are born a corpo, and other times you're this guy. However, it's important to know that even a rigged game is still technically winnable. No matter how many handicaps you give someone, sometimes they win because they are just better than you. And this is the dream that is so intoxicating to so many people that live within Night City. They know that the system is rigged and unfair, but there is still this illusion that if they put in the work and put in the hours, then they can beat the system. If Johnny Silverhand became a legend, then why can't David? If Steve Jobs was making Apple when he was 20, then what the hell am I doing with my life? There are only a select few that actually become legends and get a drink named after them in the afterlife, and they serve as a strong reminder that Night City is in some way conquerable. But have you ever given thought to just how many people were inspired by their stories only to fade away into obscurity? For example, there was a patch to 2077 after Edgerunners came out that allowed you to order a David Martinez in the afterlife. This is a really cute nod. However, I find it interesting that there's no drink for Pilar, or Rebecca, or even Maine. And those are only important named characters within the canon of Edgerunners. How many people within the canon of Cyberpunk have been inspired by these stories only to end up working at McDonald's or dead in an alleyway somewhere? But as I said, this isn't exactly a well-kept secret. The people know that the game is rigged and they still want to play anyway. David himself is directly shown what will happen following this self-destructive dream to make it big will do to him. And yet it is so intoxicating that he cannot stop himself, because he's built different. He's the main character of a shonen anime, so surely This is the view from the top. This is what awaits the select few that don't just die in an alleyway somewhere. It happened to David, Johnny, and it happens in most of V's endings. Everyone always thinks that they are the main character of their own story, that the bad things that happen to other people certainly won't happen to them. That is, until reality Adam smashes your ass into the ground. The dream is so alluring that just as David inherited Maine's dream, the name David Martinez will inspire the next generation of bright young kids to dope up on drugs and suicide bomb into Japanese Google. But is all of this really a bad thing? Is it bad for a mother to bust her ass for the sake of her only child? Is it wrong to aim for the top when the alternative is giving yourself up to megacorporations that see you as less than human? Was David wrong? Abso-fucking-lutely. But that's just my opinion, and I could see why many would disagree, so let's talk about it. See, I'm pretty sure all of the main characters in the show are some shade of morally insane. The Edgerunners are a dysfunctional group of assholes, but there are a dysfunctional group of assholes, and that's because the show generally does a really good job at making us sympathize with their struggles. We don't have to condone their choices to understand why they make them, mainly because Night City kinda sucks. When being poor in Night City comes with this many negatives, most people are going to be pretty desperate to escape that life by any means necessary. We can see that desperation causes almost all the main characters to either be running from something or towards another. Take, for example, the least asshole of the entire group, Falco. Okay, we can't do Falco because he doesn't have enough scenes in the show, so we're gonna have to talk about David now. When talking about sympathy, the kid starts from the most rock bottom that can be rock bottomed. There is nowhere that he can go but up after the first episode. And in a setting that is oppressive as Night City, it's exhilarating to watch David rise up the ranks. To see him go stronger and fight the system, all while mostly sticking to his ideals. He goes further than his mentor, he beats the shit out of Maxtac, he makes his mother proud, and he even makes his girlfriend's dream come true. As we follow his struggles from the bottom, we want to see him succeed. We want to believe that he can do it. We, the audience watching this, might even fall into the same exact trap that David did, and might actually believe that he can do it. That is how powerful the illusion of Night City is. But when you take a step back, sure, he went farther than May, but he died the same awful death. Sure, he made it to the top of Arasaka Tower, in the most tragic way possible. Sure, he made Lucy's dream come true, but Lucy told him over and over and over again that what she really wanted was not the moon. It was simply for him to not throw away his life like so many others on his path already have. David tricked himself into running a rat race with no end, and once you start running, it can feel impossible to stop. By the time that David takes over Maine's position, everyone in the crew is now depending on him for missions. New missions means new Chrome, and new Chrome makes you strong enough to take on new missions. And once we're already in a position of power, it's a lot easier to upgrade than to willingly downgrade. To me, that is the true tragedy that Cyberpunk Edgerunners is trying to get across with both Maine and David's story. Because no matter how much you lie to yourself, David probably could have stopped at some point. If he had just slowed down. If he had just listened to Lucy a bit more. Then the show could have had a much happier ending. Sure, he wouldn't have had a drink named after him in the afterlife, but when the existence of that drink causes the person you love the most to spend the rest of her life isolated on the moon with all of her friends and her lover dead as she solemnly remembers the times that she was happy, that better be a damn good drink.
I didn't want any of this. Didn't want to watch you die.
I'm not a smart man.
It feels so good in the moment to aim high and go out with a bang. To watch that fight scene between him and Adam Smasher where they're fighting in super time. And that's why Edgerunners does such an amazing job at showing us exactly why someone like David would make the choices that he did. But when you think about it, at the end of the show, David's actions directly got Rebecca killed. They ruined Lucy's real dream, and they gave me a % chance of breaking down whenever I enter a car in 2077. But I don't blame David. In fact, I love him as a character the same way that I love the show. For one, flawed characters aren't bad characters, so jot that down. More importantly, Who am I to say that he made the wrong choices when his situation was this fucked? At a very young age, we watch the main antagonist kill his mother, leave him for broke, and make him think that the only option in his life was the speedrun a life of crime. And by main antagonist, I'm not talking about Saul Goodman. I'm not even talking about Arasaka. They are just symptoms of a greater disease. It is a nearly eldritch being that no one person can hope to defeat. It is a system that endlessly creates villains using perverse incentives, thus, in turn, creating an endless amount of heroes to fight the villain.
Not a tale for the next dreamer.
It weaves a mesmerizing dream that makes people honestly think that they have to burn their lives away just for a chance at happiness. Because in Night City, it's not about how you live, it's about what you're willing to die for.